The American Civil War was more than a series of battles. It was the crucible in which the very definition of America was forged. For 4 years the country was torn apart, raising urgent questions about freedom, equality, and the nature of the Union. We often look back through comforting myths, but to understand the war, we must confront its raw truths. The voices of soldiers, the enslaved, and leaders reveal the real story. This is not just a story of the past. It's the story of who we are, still shaping our nation today. The deepest truth of the Civil War is that its legacy endures. From the start, America was a paradox founded on liberty, yet built on slavery. The Constitution was a compromise protecting slavery while proclaiming freedom. The founders hoped the issue would fade, but it only deepened. This contradiction became a wound that would demand a bloody reckoning. The nation's original sin could not be ignored forever. By the 1800s, the Southern economy revolved around slavery and cotton. The wealth and power of the South depended on enslaved labor, with the value of enslaved people surpassing all other assets. Northern banks and industries were deeply tied to this system. The war was a clash between two incompatible economies, one free, one built on bondage. Slavery was not a side issue, it was the heart of the conflict. Lincoln's election in 1860 triggered secession. Southern states made it clear in their own words, they left the Union to protect slavery. Mississippi declared its position thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery. Confederate leaders openly stated their cause was white supremacy and bondage. The South fought for slavery. History should remember that. The war began at Fort Sumter in 1861, shattering families and communities. Former friends and relatives became enemies on the battlefield. New technologies, rifled muskets, railroads, telegraphs, made the war deadlier than any before. Romantic visions of war vanished in the face of mass casualties and industrialized killing. The Civil War was the first modern war, and its brutality was unprecedented. At first, the Union fought only to preserve the nation, but after Antietam, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, making the war a fight for freedom. This transformed the conflict into a moral crusade and weakened the Confederacy. Lincoln's vision evolved. He saw that the Union could not survive without ending slavery. The proclamation promised a new birth of freedom. The Emancipation Proclamation allowed black men to join the Union Army. Nearly 180,000 African Americans fought bravely, facing prejudice and deadly risks. Their service shattered racist myths and proved their right to citizenship. Black soldiers fought for their own freedom and the nation's future. They were not just freed, they were fighters for liberty. By 1864, the Union waged total war to break the South's will. Sherman's march to the sea targeted infrastructure and morale, not just armies. His campaign cut a swath of destruction, aiming to force surrender and end the bloodshed. This harsh strategy was designed to hasten peace. The war's final phase was relentless and transformative. In 1865, Lee surrendered to Grant at Appomattox, ending the war. Lincoln sought a compassionate peace, but his assassination days later shattered hope. Reconstruction began, but without Lincoln's leadership, it faltered. The Union was preserved, but the nation's wounds remained deep. The struggle to rebuild and secure freedom was just beginning. After the war, 3 amendments aimed to transform America. The 13th abolished slavery, the 14th granted citizenship and equal protection, and the 15th protected voting rights. For a brief time, black Americans gained political power, but backlash was swift. Jim Crow laws and violence rolled back progress. The promise of equality was betrayed, leaving a legacy of struggle. After defeat, the South created the lost cause myth to justify their actions. This narrative denied slavery as the cause and romanticized the Confederacy. It spread through monuments and books, fueling white supremacy for generations. The lost cause is a lie that distorts history and obscures the war's true cause. The Civil War's legacy shapes America's present. Its unresolved questions echo in debates over race, history, and national identity. The work of justice and equality remains unfinished. America is still striving to fulfill the promise for which so many died. The Civil War was a battle for America's soul, settling some questions but leaving others open. It ended slavery, but not racism. Preserved the Union, but not unity. We are still living with its consequences and responsibilities. To study the war is to study ourselves, our flaws, our hopes, our unfinished work. Its legacy is written every time we fight for justice and equality. The war is over, but the struggle for a more perfect union continues.